it's your girl Lynn back with another video. If you haven't already, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you follow me on my social media accounts. They are going to be in the description box below. And if you are reading the title of this video, it is going to be labeled trauma. Everyone goes through it, and it is real. And I know that is a very heavy topic, but I want to be able to dissect what it means and dissect, the different variations of trauma. Everyone has the right to have their own, voice and how to say what their trauma did to them. And it's not going around comparing and rating each other's trauma, because that doesn't make any sense, and I had to sit there and really think about it. But in the sense of like, trauma is real. Everyone goes through variations of trauma, just like I said before, and it's really shedding light on that and really being able to talk about it. Because for me, I don't feel like I've been comfortable ever talking about trauma or like abuse and stuff like that, because I feel like it makes me feel like a victim or feel small or feel like I'm bad for like going through that. I should have, I should just have, I don't know. I just don't feel good about talking about it out loud, but it's something that we do need to communicate out loud. We do need to say, and we do need to release, because when trauma just stays with you, one thing you'll do is you'll go in pilot mode and you just like, it's just baggage with you. You don't even notice it because it's become so a part of you and accustomed to your regular day that like, it's like brushing your teeth. And it's like, I really want to shed light that your voice is valid. You need to say what you've been through, and it doesn't matter if people think or what they do. If that is your truth, that is your truth. Has been through a point of their life where they could not walk away. They could not be strong for themselves. They did not have someone to support them in the way that they needed. And they wanted, and they were okay with staying where they're at, even though it meant enduring abuse in a physical way, a mental way, a psychological way, in an emotional way. There's different types of abuse, and everyone that has endured it or has been a part of it or has been affected by abuse and trauma understands. And when I say trauma, I don't like to talk about it. Just like I say, it makes me kind of uncomfortable. But how this video came into play, I was getting, my yearly checkup with my doctor at the doctor's office. She was talking to me, and she was like looking at my chart, and we were talking, and then she was like, wow, you've been through a lot of trauma. And like when she said that, I felt like really angered. Like, why would you don't have a right to say I've been through trauma. Like, you don't know me. Like I didn't say that, but I felt my body tense up, and I felt myself automatically close and shut down. And I guess like she picked up on it, because she was just like, I could just tell like your energy's very like you've been through a lot, and I felt so vulnerable. And being vulnerable is not being, oh my god, and being vulnerable is not being naked. It could be, I'm not gonna say it's not, but for me, that's not vulnerability. Being vulnerable is when someone's able to completely see and deshell you like a lobster tail and get the raw parts of that, and just, the sweet kind of tangy, almost bitter insides, and it's like, well, like, you're like, why would that? I felt like she overstepped. She was a doctor, and she was just telling me her feeling, and she had rights to say that, but it made me feel so like I've never acknowledged it until I was in the moment. She was like, yeah, you've been through a lot of trauma. When I got home, I felt very like invaded, and I was like, wow, like she just like, almost like she had outed me, and like I wasn't ready to be outed, or I didn't even process that for myself to even feel comfortable like being like, yeah, I've been through a lot of trauma. And now that I am saying it on video out loud for the first time, that I am a trauma survivor, it still feels weird, because I feel like that word is so heavy and so big, and like I don't feel like I'm deserving to say I'm a trauma survivor, but in a lot of ways I am. And I just, you know, in this little story that I'm giving you, that I'm just letting you know that sometimes you don't even know that you are a trauma survivor, because you've been through so much and you've endured so much that you just kind of are numb to it, you know? And it's me telling you that your trauma there's all validations on how you respond to your trauma, you know? Because I'm not you and you're not me. But I want you to push through that trauma. Like, I want you to not let your trauma be you, if that makes sense. Let your trauma be something that you've went through, but don't let it be the only experience you are able to recognize. There's this list on Facebook that I was like, oh wow, I came across it and I shared it and I wrote it down because I was like, this is perfect for my video. I want you to really listen to the list. If you check any of these, really, you know, write the things that you feel like have contributed to your trauma, or you feel like that you have not, you know, dealt with as a child that has come with you, you know, because that's important. Because when we don't handle our traumas, they usually tend to leech off us and hang off us like earrings, and they're really weighing us down like anchors. So let's start with the list. Number 1 is going to be, it's growing up in a split home where the parents don't get along. Number 2, it's being expected to be perfect in school, and if you weren't, you were punished. Number 3, it's not having someone tell you or show you that they love you and will be there when you need them. Number 4, it's being told to shut up all the time, so now you feel like nobody cares what you have to say. Number 5, it's watching your parents introduce you to new intimate partners every few months with no image of stability. 5, it's constantly having to babysit your siblings as a child because your parents had to work or is just living life. To loop it and bring it back around, trauma for me was something I never really said out loud and, you know, made it a big part of me. I just kind of suppressed it and like kind of checked it off on my to-do list and said, you know, I've been through that, check, and kind of never was able to emotionally, not emotionally express it, but just express the fact that I've been through trauma. I just don't want to, you know, carry myself through that, like that. I don't want to, the first thing that you see is, oh, I've been through trauma, you know, that that's not what I want. But acknowledging the fact that I have been through a lot of traumas and tribulations, and it's really taking a lot of weight to really tell myself, like, I was hit by a car. My family really kind of taunted me and, you know, did a lot of war tactics and kind of black sheep me and, you know, told me a lot of things to emotionally and psychologically and, you know, break me down. And not emotions, but relationships I've had, you know, situationships, whatever they were, guys that, you know, one thing, okay, I'll share this trauma with you guys. I remember I used to love white boys at one point in time. Like, I used to be like, oh my god, I'm gonna be with a white guy, yada yada. And this was like high school, younger. Then I started talking to this white kid, and one day we were drinking, and like he was doing other things, whatever he was doing. And he was like, Lindsay, you're always talking. You always got something to say. You always got an opinion. And I'm just like, okay, like, I don't what? Like, he's like, you always got something to say. and he poured gasoline on me, and he was like, I'm gonna set you on fucking fire. Say one more thing, say one more thing. And like that was like a traumatic situation for me, that like I like was like, wow, like he really could have killed me instantly. Like he really could have caught me on fire. And him being a white person saying that he was gonna like burn me, it made me feel very ill towards a race. It's not saying that I hate the race, but it's just saying because of certain circumstances that I went through that did play and contribute to a big part of my trauma, made me not like the race in general moving forward. And like that's why I'm just like, you know, like white men would be like, I like you, I want to take you out, I enjoy your company, you communicate well, you have great ideas. And it's like, thank you for the compliment, but that's where it stays. Because if one white man is able to do that and like literally just be at that point of like where you're gonna tell me because I'm opinionated and I'm vocal about it, that you're gonna like, you throw gasoline on me and you're going to burn me and like light the fire, is so scary, to a point of like, I was like, it shook me. Like I was like, all right, no more white boys, like I'm not gonna do that. Not saying I dislike white boys, because I'll look at you from afar. I love me some Thor, but that's as far as I'll go. I would never want to be with a white person because of that. Mostly because of that. There's other contributions to it, but mostly that's a big part of it. But yeah, I've been through a lot of trauma, and that's just one of them. And like, just letting you know that trauma comes from a lot of parts of your life, not just one particular place, and not from one trauma does not look one particular way. Trauma is crafted and shaped for your life. And I don't want to say like, oh, it's like Halloween candy, everyone gets a piece of candy, everyone gets a piece of trauma. But it's saying and letting yourself know that you are more than your trauma, and you cannot be just trauma. You have to be able to tell yourself, yes, I've been through this experience where it has scathed me and intentionally changed who I was supposed to be, you know, but it's made me become who I'm supposed to become, and made me hyper aware of things that I wouldn't have been if I didn't go through that traumatic situation, you know. And it's almost turning a limelight on it, or like flipping the coin or turning the light on. I know, flip side, whatever. I know, being optimistic about it. And I'm not saying, oh, be optimistic about trauma, because usually trauma is not a great experience, but it's making the bad experience count, and it's letting yourself that it does count, and it's letting yourself know that it counts to the best parts of you that you choose to be, and not disvaluing anyone's trauma, but being able to speak about it with yourself and other people around you is a big part of a healthy environment, you know, because when you don't have things that you've never said out loud still inside you and just rotting and soiling and like marinating inside it adds room for other things to disbalance you. And we don't want to let our inner child that was abused in any way or traumatized in any way be the big thing that's unhealed and you're unable to move forward in life. Because one thing people don't really take account for is when you go through a trauma at a certain age, and if you never heal or talk about it or digress the trauma, and really figure it out, you will grow up with that trauma. You will grow up with that mentality of when that trauma happened until you heal it. So you'll carry that trauma into relationships. You'll carry that trauma into the daily things of your life, not really knowing, because you've suppressed it and put it deep down inside you, and you've made it kind of grow with you. and it just got a place inside of you and kind of got comfortable. We don't want to be comfortable with trauma. We want to be able to figure our traumas out and live with them and be gracious about them and be, you know, thankful for them, but be understanding and understanding you move forward, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, until your trauma becomes your testimony, you know, until your trauma becomes someone else's, hey, wow, that really happened to you, and, you know, I'm gonna learn from you, you know, those things. And it's not to ever say, oh, people go through trauma to make other people learn from them, but it's saying that sometimes when bad things happen to you, you saying something or you expressing it you never know how someone might relate, or you might stop someone else from having to go through that experience themselves. Again, trauma is real, and if anyone has been through trauma, I'm sorry. I know how it feels to feel like your trauma is not really heard and it's not really cared about and is really ignored, you know, and kind of erased. And I want to tell you guys, you have a voice here. You have a voice to tell your real story and be authentically raw about your trauma and not feel misjudged for it, because trauma is real. And when you hold that close to your chest like a bow, it silently breaks you, you know? And I'm not trying to get emotional, but I'm just saying, like, it takes you to a point of, like, you don't know how to enjoy things anymore without it. And I don't want us to go around feeling like we have to go through disaster to feel just a small amount of happiness, because that's not what life is. But I do want us to talk about it because it is important to everyone's well-being. That's my tidbit on trauma. If I overshared, I'm sorry, but I will have other videos like this, just, you know, getting that out there, getting that message out there, because it's needed, I think. But make sure you like, share, subscribe, and peace, love, and happiness. Later, guys.